Afternoon. This is just a quick overview of Simcode. So Simcode is an online web program. You can see here it's hosted at cphapps.temple.edu/Simcode. This will be in the email that you'll get from Jamie Schaefer, our developer. So the Simcode is currently hooked into the Temple University system. So you just log on with your access net and password. We can also create logins for people who are not in the Temple University system very easily. So once you sign in, you'll see this is our first page. Over here, you'll see the option to create a study. I've already created one for you, so this is just going to be a quick overview of what you would do. So you'd put in your study names, your template. So templates are previously uploaded. This is something that we're actually tweaking the process of making right now. So this will change and I'll keep you updated once we do that. And then you can click, these are the list of users that are currently on Simcode. This is also something that we are revamping, so you'll only see people who are in your study or your lab or are collaborators. These are people that I've all worked with. So then once you have filled in your study name and any comments, picked your template, you would click here to submit, and then you would see your study show up here under development studies. So since I already have one, I didn't create one. So if you click on the study name, all of the cases will show up. I've already uploaded one case. And let me show you how to add another case. So just to review, under your study, you would just simply click add a case. So we'll call this case 2. And then for the transcript, we do a simple copy and paste approach. Again, these are sample transcripts that we developed specifically for testing Simcode. The site, this is optional. For a lot of studies that have multi-site, for a lot of studies that are multi-site, we would put them down, so like Temple, or you can also use it to put down the coder. The instrument is number is another option of ways that you can use it to identify a coder or an arm of the study, develop, control, that sort of thing. But we don't need that for just this. So we've uploaded the transcript, just a copy and paste from Microsoft Excel, and click submit. And then if you click back, oops, it does take you just to development studies, but you can see now it shows up here. So once you have your case uploaded, the next step is to add speakers. So if you click here, it just says your case name, your coding status, and then the edit option allows you to go through and edit anything. We don't usually need to do that very much. You can delete a case or add speakers. So speakers are global, meaning that any speakers you add, you'll be able to add into any cases. This is particularly useful if you're evaluating, for example, multiple healthcare providers or healthcare providers who show up in multiple appointments. If you've got, 5 OBGYNs that you wanted to compare to each other, Simcode will automatically know that, OBGYN 6 or 5 shows up in cases 1, 7, and 9. OBGYN 2 shows up in cases 2, 14, etc. So I'm just going to add these as general, HCP 1. And then you click add in case, change that to yes. So this part signifies basically whether the speaker is in the case or not. And OK is next of kin. So in this case, we have parent 1, add case, and say parent 2. And then click close. So then we added those for case 1. So for case 2, if I open it up, you can see that the healthcare providers I entered for case 1 also show up. So say they have the same parents, but now they have a different healthcare provider. So I just would add healthcare provider 2. And then this case will have the same parents, but a different healthcare provider. So that's kind of cool, and we found it to be pretty useful. So now you have all of your speakers. If you click on case 1, this is when you would actually start coding. So you can search in the text if you were looking for a specific phrase, say hello. You can search and then it highlights everything there. So I'm going to select an utterance, you would just highlight the section you want. You come over here, you select your topic code and your content code, like a general greeting. These are just sort of paring down your broad topics to more specific. And then I'm just going to call this healthcare provider 1. And then you can add them either as a statement, an open-ended question, or a closed-ended question. So I'd add it as a statement, and then it shows up right here. I'm going to add next the parent, so it's still introduction, general greeting, parent 1, and then parent 2. Same introduction, general greeting, parent 2, add statement. Then we have how are you? So introduction, this is still sort of a general greeting, healthcare provider 1, and then I'm going to add this as an open-ended question. So you can see here, this is where we would have our utterance line. This is just for Simcode to keep track. Our topic, which we're selecting here, our content code from here. QA is just referring to a question and answer, so whether it's a statement, as we had for the first 3 utterances, or a question that's open-ended for this one. Then we also have the speaker. So we can see this one was a question, and so then we have parent number 2 answering, just as a general good. So theirs is a statement answering the question. But you can see here there's this little plus sign, which is response to. So you can actually tag this line 5 as being a response to line 4. And then what this does is you can later go on and see, the healthcare provider asked this question and the parent responded. Obviously this matters a bit more if you have questions that are more in detail than how are you. But it's a good sort of overall view. What's nice too is you can have multiple utterances that are an answer to the same question. So for example, line 6, parent number 1 saying great is also a response to line 4, the caregiver or the genetic counselor asking how are you. So those are both captured here. This is important because sometimes an answer to a question might be coming several lines afterwards, or it might be long-winded, so it really allows you to capture in great details. It works the same for closed-ended questions. So you'll see also here in this line, we have this tag that is COM for communication. So these are communication types that we felt are relevant to this particular study. These are well established, but not required. You can change these to fit the communication types that you would like to use for your study. So I was just gonna say, pick one at random, and then you can add a note here. So usually you would do something like, parents were apologizing for something. Again, you don't need the note, it's just a good way to sort of keep track of why you were coding something the way you had. We found this to be especially useful for when we're doing training. You can also, we have this decision tag where if you had specific decisions that you wanted to see when they were being used, so if the parents are making a decision about surgery for their child, these are also entirely customizable and would be set up for your particular projects. Last, you can also delete this line. So say I miscoded this line, I would just, if you click here, it'll highlight the line that corresponds up there. So you could just click delete, double check, and now it's gone. So you can see here how it's no longer underlined because it's no longer coded. We jump straight from the healthcare provider saying hello to the second parent. Say I wanted to add them in, I'd simply select the text, pair 1, and then add statement, and it jumps right back in, right in order. And you can see it readjusted these line numbers automatically. The last part of Simcode is the speech and affect ratings. These are also something that has been established but can be entirely customized to what you wanted to see. So for the healthcare provider, you could go through and rate, so anger, anxiety, depression, etc. And you can see as you go through and click these, it does update your percentage completed up there. So that's just a feature we added to make sure that questions weren't getting skipped. You can see especially some of these you would want to customize. So like, did the healthcare provider use any pet names, clinical trials discussed? That sort of thing is very study specific. And then speech ratings are the same. You can rate each speaker in the case. And again, entirely customizable. I'll just click a couple of these. And then, so under development studies, we go back. And then the last bit, info. If you hover over here, you can see how it says lines 6, C for communication types 3, D1 for your decision types. So that, as you could just do a quick overview, this one has no lines because we didn't touch it. Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you under this part is this bottom part where you can check coding complete, reviewed, reliability code, practice, whether it was a complete conversation or whether there were sections missing, and whether there was no recording. So typically you would listen to the recording of the conversation as you do this. We generally would listen to about a minute and then code what we had heard, listen to another minute and then code that. Just because you would pick up on a lot of things related to tone and sarcasm that might affect how you would code something. Like if, for example, the transcript just says laughter, positive or negative laughter, and things like that. So I'm just going to mark this one practice. And then it shows up here as practice. And you can add as many cases as you would need. And then if you go over here to reports, this is where you would actually get your data out. So this first one, case summary, everything exports as a CSV. So you'd have who created it, the template you use, the speakers who are present, so the number of utterances, decision tags, communication tags, whether it was completed, reliability, practice, that sort of stuff, coded by. So this is sort of your overview for like a weekly report of how many of your cases have been reviewed or were practiced or completed. Our next one, speakers. So this one, we skipped a lot of these, but this is where the speech and affect reports. So you can see these people got a 4, depression, assertiveness. This would also be customized based on what you had put in. Content is where this exports again your case name, your username, your template. Again, whether it was reliability or reviewed, but this is more of sort of the meat of the transcript where it includes the transcript text, your topic and code, and your utterance type. So we have how are you as a question, good and great as statements, as a response to line 4, this how are you question. This is where you would really be able to look at question and responses, although that comes in more detail in our next one, which exports strictly your questions and responses. So it had to export in ways because of the way that the back end of Simcode is set up, but you can see it has this content ID, which is also present in your content folder. So that's how your data manager would match these up. And then last, any communication or decision tags. So you can see we've got our, these are what we clicked, one decision, and then our communication and apology. So that is the very quickest overview of Simcode. I'm happy to help with any questions you might have, or meet with you in person if you'd like to chat a bit more.